And of course, Raju, we don't really know his situation. Did he come back last night? He's here? Hmm. What time he came? Okay.
Last night.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadhari Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivadadhari Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana Yashodanandana Brajadana Randana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe.
Jaya Radha Madhava Madhava Radhe.
Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe.
Jaya Radha Madhava Madhava Radhe.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada.
Gaura Pimanandi. Jai Vishupad Paramahamsa Tri Radhikacharya Stotra Satta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Shilabhai Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Iskon BBT Founder Sharia's Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantaraj Bhagavatam Ki Danita Gaura Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada Ki. Nandishwapu, maybe that plastic, maybe covering some plant, just move it a little bit. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Taksuranmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jita Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Swam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Taptakan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Narayanam
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudiraya.
Tato Jayamudiraye.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara, Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesa badreshu
Nashtaprayasha Bhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Shevaya
Bhagavati Tamasloke
Bhavate Uttama Slake
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki.
By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed or practically to nil. And a loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama
Idam Bhagavata Nama
Puranam Brahma Samhitam
Puranam Brahma Samhitam
Uttama Shloka Charitam
Uttama Shlake Charitam
Chakara Bhagavan Rishi
Sakara Bhagavan Rishi
Nishreyasaya Lokasya
Nisreyasaya Lokasya
Dhanyam Swasyayanam Mahat.
Dharnam Sasayanam Maha.
This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Sri Advaita
Sri
Gadadhara,
Advaita Gadadhar,
Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda,
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama Hare
Rama
Hare.
Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Shurabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Shurabhyaya Namaha.
Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
Om Shurabhyaya Namaha.
Mukham karoti vacharam pangum langayate girim yadkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yadkripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class. Continuing Canto number 1, chapter 9, the passing away of Bhishmadev. Today is 28th. Yes. Dharmartha
Dharmartha
Kama
Kama
Mokshams
Moksham
Cha
Cha
Sahopayan
Sahopayan
Yatha
Yatha
Mune
Mune
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Varnayam
Varnayam
Asa
Asha
Tattvavit
Tattvavit
Dharmartha Kama Moksham Cha
Dharmartha Kama Moksham Cha
Sahopayan Yatha Mune
Sahopayan Yatha Mune
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Varnayam Asa Tattvavit
Varnayamasa Tattvavit
Dharmartha Kama Moksham Cha
Dharmartha Kama Moksham Cha
Sahopayan Yatha Mune
Sahopayan Yatha Mune
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Varnayam Asa Tattvavit
Varnayamasa Tattvavit
Dharmartha Kama Moksham Cha
Dharmartha Kama Moksham Cha
Sahopayan Yatha Mune
Sahopayan Yatha Mune
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Varnayam Asa Tattvavit
Varnayamasa Tattvavit Dharmartha Kama Moksham Cha
Dharmartha Kama Moksham Cha
Sahopayan Yatha Mune
Sahopayan Yatha Mune
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Varnayamasa Tattvavit
Varnayamasa Tattvavit
Dharmartha Kama Mokshascha
Dharmartha Kama Moksham Cha
Sahopayan Yatha Mune
Sahopayan Mune
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Nanakyanetihaseshu
Varnayam Asa Tattvavit
Varnayamasa Tattvavit
धर्मार्थकाममोक्षं च
dharmarthakamamokṣamscha
सहोपायन् यथा मुने
sahopayan yatha mune
नानाख्यानेतिहासेषु
nanatyanetihaseshu
वर्णयम् आशतत्तवे
varnayamasa tattvavet dharma occupational duties
occupational duties
artha
artha
economic development
economical development
kama
kama
fulfillment of desires
fulfillment of desire
mokshan
mokshan
ultimate salvation
ultimate salvation
cha
cha
and
and
saha
saha
along with
along with
upayan
upayan
means
means
yatha
yatha
as it is
as it is
mune
mune
o sage
o sage
nana
nana
various
various
akyana
akhyana
by recitation
by recitation
of historical narrations
of historical narration
itihaseshu
itihaseshu
in the histories
in the histories
varnayam
varnayam
asa
varnayam asa
described
describe
tattvavit
tatvavit
one who knows the truth
one who knows the truth.
translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And then he described the occupational duties of different orders and statuses of life, citing instances from history, for he was himself well acquainted with the truth. Kind of repeat after me. Then he described the occupational duties of different orders and statuses of life, citing instances from history, for he was himself well acquainted with the truth. Purport. Incidents mentioned in the Vedic literatures, such as the Puranas, Mahabharata, and Ramayana, are factual historical narrations that took place sometimes in the past, although not in any chronological order. Such historical facts, being instructive for ordinary men, were assorted without chronological reference. Besides that, they happen on different planets, nay, in different universes, and thus the description of the narrations is sometimes measured by 3 dimensions. We are simply concerned with the instructive lessons of such incidents, even though they are not in order by our limited range of understanding. Bhishmadeva described such narrations before Maharaj Yudhishthira in reply to his different questions. Translation again. Then he described the occupational duties of different orders and statuses of life, citing instances from history, for he was himself well acquainted with the truth. So here, Grandfather Bhishmadev will be narrating to Yudhishthira Maharaj so many different stories. Actually, by way of stories, we can get many important instructions. So Vedic literatures contain all kinds of historical facts which as Prabhupada mentions here, are not always presented in chronological order. And those different narrations or histories are not only from this planet, but from other planets, and not only from this universe, but from other universes, which for ordinary people sometimes appears to be, um, we could say, unbelievable or very difficult to understand or to accept. One thing we need to always keep in mind is that, like Grandfather Bhishmadev, who is a very uh, well versed, very learned, very advanced devotee of the Lord, we have so many such like personalities, all of our Vaishnavacharyas, so many saintly kings throughout history, and they all accept such narrations, such histories, which may appear to be, um, well, they're categorized as being, what is it? Um, like made up stories, or what's the actual word? Um, in other words, not factual um, history, which is uh, which is of course not the case. Just like even beginning from Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada would explain how different scholars who are uh, or historians who, when they study the Bhagavad Gita, and then when Krishna says that I am now speaking you the same knowledge that I spoke to the sun god, Vivaswan. Then many people will say, well, this is not actually what he means, or this is like, because for most people, they don't even accept that there is life, for example, on the planets, uh, that there is a connection, uh, we are connected. Hmm. This is narrated in so many places in the Shastra, just like even 5,000 years ago, the Pandavas are directly connected with different demigods. Their father actually is are demigods. And there used to be what we call interplanetary travel. Humans, some humans would, as Arjuna did, for example, would go to Indraloka, and similarly, demigods would also interact and would come and sometimes appear when certain yagyas would be performed. So, very extensively, parts of this universe or other universe. His narration of these different subject matters are all connected with, somehow or other, the whole subject matter of dharma. Actually, this text is beginning with the very word dharma. In these exchanges between Yudhishthira Maharaj and uh, Grandfather Bhishmadev, to a large extent, the subject matter deals with dharma. Uh, and there's so many facets, or so many aspects of dharma that are not so easily understood. For example, here it mentions about dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So, in some contexts, in some instances, these four activities of dharma, uh, artha, kama, and moksha are rejected as being secondary and as being not so important. So that's in one context. It means that definitely the goal or the purpose of life, as we know, which is especially strongly emphasized in our Guru Parampara, is simply to um, practice pure devotional service and be less concerned or bothered with so many material aspects of life. That is one understanding, which is correct also, because the goal of life is not to make money. The goal of life is also not kama or sense gratification. And the goal of life is not simply to attain moksha, as we know. But of course, Prabhupada here translates moksha as ultimate liberation. What is ultimate liberation? We know from teachings of Lord Chaitanya and the teachings of our Vaishnava acharyas, of course, that the ultimate liberation is is to know Krishna and to return to Krishna's abode in the spiritual world, which is Goloka Vrindavan. On the other side, what is important to understand is that because we are here in the material world, these four aspects of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha have their importance. And when they are properly understood, mm, there are many references. One in particular dealing with uh, what is called sarva kama dugamahi. Sarva kama, in that particular context, is referred to as not sense gratification, but necessities of life, isn't it? Artha is also mm, uh, described as what is necessary to meet our material necessities of life. So, when it is, in other words, this uh, ordinary, we could say, dharma, just like Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, sarva dharmam parityaja. We should reject all kinds of religion. But what does that mean? It means all kinds of religious activities that are materially motivated, isn't it? It's not that we reject dharma. Otherwise, we would not be uh, telling people that actually we are promoting Sanatan Dharma. So Sanatan Dharma, Sanatan, the very word Sanatan indicates that it is our eternal position, our eternal identity, our eternal, we could say, activity. So sometimes acharyas, including our own founder acharya, Srila Prabhupada, will minimize, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, minimize, for example, varnashrama. Of course, some devotees will say, well, he rejected varnashrama, so we should not even bother about varnashrama, isn't it? But in that conversation, the context needs to be properly understood. The whole discussion with Ramananda Roy was to find out actually what is the ultimate and highest expression and highest goal in life, isn't it? And of course, in that whole conversation, Ramananda Roy gradually explained more deeply about the subject matter, which culminated, of course, in the loving relationships of Krishna with the devotees, the residents of Vrindavan, in particular the gopis of Vrindavan, and ultimately with Srimati Radharani. So everything, in other words, needs to be seen and understood in their proper context. Just like one devotee sent me a nice reference explaining what is the essence of what Srila Prabhupada intended when he created the Bhaktivedanta Institute. So most devotees, I would say, are less familiar with the Bhaktivedanta Institute. What is the purpose of the Bhaktivedanta Institute that we call BI? Okay, that's what I mean. It's less known. Less known means less understood. Srila Prabhupada, uh, when he was physically present, uh, for example, he, in addition to establishing ISKCON, he established, for example, the BBT, Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, separate from ISKCON, as a separate legal entity from ISKCON. That's a whole subject matter, of course. But the point being that Srila Prabhupada, he explained why he did that. Srila Prabhupada gave so much of emphasis and importance to his books that he explained that we need to have a separate trust or legal entity for the continued translation and publication of these books, because that is the most important. The organization ISKCON may or may not be there, may encounter certain difficulties, but what is important is that these teachings be continued and be introduced and spread all over the world. Also, Srila Prabhupada, he established the Bhaktivedanta Institute, which is also a separate kind of entity for the purpose of focusing on the intelligentsia, on the, for example, presenting Krishna consciousness to the scientists and the intellectuals of the world. And there is a very, interesting purport from the first canto of the Bhagavatam, whereby Srila Prabhupada speaks about different types of sciences. For example, in colleges and universities, there is there are different sciences that one can study, whether it is medicine, whether it is law, whether it is mathematics or politics, etc., sociology, psychology. All of these different sciences, when they are connected and utilized in Krishna service, they become spiritualized, isn't it? So this devotee actually who will be coming to Mayapur, he was one of our teachers last year when we had the VCF Kartik semester, which we will be having again this year, beginning next month, at the beginning of Kartik. He was giving a proposal to actually give a seminar on the topic of Varnashrama, the whole ideology of Varnashrama connected with BI, Bhaktivedanta Institute. Very interesting subject matter. Because very often, as we often hear from devotees, Varnashram related things, because it's material, it's not so important. Let's just sit down, chant Hare Krishna, chant and be happy. When we get tired, take a little prasadam, and then that's it. That is our formula. More simple. Why do we have to bother with this and learning this and learning that, Well, we need to bother about it because, number one, it's there in the Shastra. Number two, our founder Acharyas told us we have to learn these different things in order to give proper guidance and direction to society, and also in order to organize society. Presently, as we know, society is disorganized, largely because we don't have individuals who have been trained in these traditional sciences, which are traditional. See, we need to understand that the Vedic knowledge, the very source of knowledge, means the Vedas, and so many other supplementary books of knowledge, they are meant to be what is called the standard books of knowledge for all of humanity, not sometimes, but all the time. Isn't it? Like Ayurveda is based on, well, not only Ayurveda, all of the different sciences are based on uh, concepts and principles that are unchanging. Just like Grandfather Bhishmadev, who is a Kshatriya, that means he knows the science of Dandaniti, the science of politics. Dandaniti means the science of politics. So one may say politics, why do we need politics? Well, we need politics. I mean, Krishna is the greatest politician that ever existed. So are we going to reject Krishna because he's a politician? Krishna is the greatest politician. The Bhagavad Gita is the greatest book on psychology. I mean, if you want to know and understand about psychology, if you don't understand Bhagavad Gita, you will fail in your attempts to understand psychology and how you can help people. You cannot. You know. So this kind of understanding and appreciation is very important for all of us to have, because especially those, and here we are, you know, our little project here is trying to focus on what is called, you know, trying to present itself in this initial beginning phase as a Varnashram Resource Center. What does Varnashram Resource Center mean? Varnashram Resource Center. What does it mean?
Divide Varna.
Divide Varna.
Varnashram.
No. What does Varnashram Resource Center mean? We are, I'm trying to explain, we are trying to project ourselves. We're trying to introduce ourselves as a Varnashram Resource Center. Well, Varnashram is a very big topic, of course, which is meant to be like an ongoing subject matter that we are studying. Because unless we understand about Varnashram, how we can be a resource center for Varnashram. But what is the meaning of resource center? Center means a place, and resource means?
Upgrade. Upgrade.
Upgrade. Upgrade? Resource. Resource means a place where we can get something, isn't it?
Spread everywhere. And spread everywhere.
And spread everywhere, yeah.
Just like water resources.
Water resources,
we can use this
natural
water for
resources.
different kinds of activities.
Yes.
This water we can use for different kinds of activities, just like farming, just like
different kinds of yes. So it means that like a library, resource library, you know, books, yeah, books, because through books we get knowledge, isn't it? So Varnashram Resource Center is meant to be that place where, for example, one may come here physically, like all of us have come, to try and understand something about especially Varnashrama, isn't it? Because that still remains 50% of Prabhupada's mission, isn't it? To introduce Varnashrama, not only for our devotees in our temples or within our ISKCON society, but actually to the general population as well. Because the knowledge, again, you know, the knowledge in the Vedas is for everyone, and therefore what it means is that it becomes imperative, it becomes essential, it becomes most important, and it also becomes most urgent that we have some devotees, some individuals who will focus, who will concentrate on taking out from the Vedic knowledge all of this knowledge, all of these sciences, and then presenting it systematically, to our own devotees to begin with, and then to the general population. Education, the science of education. Actually, it's one of the, we could say, pillars. It's one of the four uh, sciences that make up what is called Chatur Vidya, isn't it? So this science of education is, we could say, Vedic education. Vedic education largely is unknown to modern man. For that matter, Vedic economics is also unknown to modern man. And we can go further and say, and we should try to understand, that Vedic education and Vedic economics is unknown to a large extent to most of our own devotees. Otherwise, we would be involved and engaged in promoting, establishing Vedic education. Otherwise, we would also be engaged and active in promoting Vedic economy. And what is Vedic economy? Some little understanding we have, and we're trying to promote and deepen our understanding of that. What is Vedic economy? In 3 words.
First of all, cows, land, and
Sanskrit words. Is, well, what is the verse? Krishi Goraksha. Krishi Goraksha Vanijam Vaisha Karma Swabhavajam. That is, you see, for all, just like if you, in South India, where there are many Ayurvedic doctors. I remember actually I was mentioning that the other day to one devotee, that in Ayurveda, very different than modern medicine. If you go and see a doctor, ordinary doctor, he'll give you a prescription, right? When he gives you the prescription, is he going to quote a verse from the Shastra?
No.
That I'm giving you this medicine because according to Shastra, there is this verse that explains that this medicine is going to have this kind of effect, positive effect. They don't know. They don't even know the word Shastra. They don't know Shastra. They know something in terms of their modern medicine, but modern medicine, to a large extent, is not based on the scientific knowledge in terms of Shastra. So, but in India, places like South India in particular, I remember going to see one Kaviraj quite some years back. So he was quoting Shastra when describing particular disease and when prescribing some particular medicine, isn't it? So it's like in South India, we had every year we used to have courses, short-term courses on Varnashrama. One year we invited a local person. This is in Hibri, which is in the district of Udupi, is at the foothills of what is Sayadri Mountain. Sayadri Mountain, for those who may not know, the places identified by the United Nations as being what is called having the status of heritage, means protected area. Why? Because there is such a wide variety of flora and fauna. So many different types of animals are there, wonderful birds singing beautifully, nice colors, peacocks also, not jackals like here. So in the early morning you hear very nice, that's cow. Anyways, whatever the cow, the chanting of the, it's like a little bit, and so we had one person who was giving a course on herbs, natural herbs. Herbs means like plants, different plants, medicinal herbs, medicinal plants. So he took the small group of students that were there. He started walking, every 2 meters, every 6 feet, he would stop. Oh, this plant is here. Oh, this plant is there, because South India in particular is a place where there's so many different medicinal herbs. But you take a person, well, most of the students that he were following him, it's just green color. They're all the same color, and no one really knows the difference between, we don't know our plants. We don't know our trees. What kind of tree is this? What kind of flower is this? Because we have become disconnected with nature. Whereas previously people were living with nature and they knew automatically so many things. So in other words, Mother Nature, she is producing practically unlimitedly in terms of different plants and different vegetables and different trees, etc. But because of the way we're living today in modern day society, we have forgotten. But all of these treasures, Mother Nature, in other words, is having all of these treasures which are hidden. Actually, they're in front of us, but our eyes are covered because we are disconnected actually with Vedic knowledge largely. So that means that to reintroduce the proper way of living, to reintroduce the different, because there's mention here of what are meant to be the natural occupations of individuals, we need to go back to that original source, isn't it? Original source, that is at the beginning of creation. Lord Brahma, who's the first created living entity, uh, this is the knowledge that he receives, isn't it? And how does he receive this knowledge? Only after performing tapasya for a very, very long time. Because,
100 years.
Yes, not 100 earthly years, is celestial. Yes. So even, just see, Lord Brahma, who's the most intelligent personality, when he finds himself sitting on top of the lotus flower, he's forgotten what he's supposed to do, and he becomes confused, isn't it? That's all described in the Bhagavatam. So he comes down from the lotus stem, and he comes down to where? On the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and there's a lot of water there, a lot of waves, so he decides, I better get out of here. He goes right up back, because then he hears, what does he hear? He hears tapa. Yeah, tapa. So then he kind of understands, okay, I have to perform tapasya. Then he performs tapasya for 100 celestial years, very, very long time, and through meditation, then he comes to actually realize, Krishna actually reveals himself. Krishna reveals the Vedic knowledge. And Gayatri is actually manifest to Lord Lord Brahma, and then from Gayatri, all of the Vedic knowledge is revealed to him. And this is actually the knowledge that is coming down in Guru Parampara since the beginning of creation. Every time there's creation, the same process is there, the same knowledge is given, and it is handed down, but at different times it becomes diverted, it becomes broken, as Krishna explains, isn't it? As was the situation 5,000 years ago. So in other words, again and again, we have to uncover, rediscover this knowledge, which is actually hidden in the pages of the Vedic literatures, and which can only be properly understood when one takes up the proper process for receiving knowledge. Just like Lord Brahma, he took the process of, isn't it, meditation. So in other words, although that's also explained by Lord Brahma, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Davayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabham. To know this knowledge is very difficult. Vedeshu adulabam atma bhakta. It is easy to understand, or more easy, not completely easy. It is more easy to understand if one who becomes a devotee of the Lord, as Lord Brahma demonstrated by his personal example. So, Prabhupada explains many times when we become overly preoccupied with material things, then we become in so many ways disqualified to understand actually spiritual subject matters. Whole modern society is overly preoccupied, as we know, with making money, with activities, material activities of sense gratification, etc. So, practically speaking, they are unable to understand even the basics that are given in the Shastra, even the basic knowledge given in the Bhagavad Gita. So, so this knowledge, um, which is being extensively introduced and presented here by Grandfather Bhishmadev, is part of what some of our devotees need to learn. And this is also meant to be part of our teachings, in our Vedic different um, educational, our two main or primary educational uh, um, facilities that we're meant to present, of course, is Gurukul, as we know, and also in terms of Varnashrama College. So we are still in the very early stages of introducing and understanding, okay, how this knowledge, first of all, what knowledge we need to present in these two, let's say, educational institutions of Varnashrama College and also Gurukula, and then what is meant to be the outcome. Why, what can we expect, and how we can help to, um, we could say, facilitate those who will actually take up such type of Vedic teachings or Vedic knowledge. Because one of the arguments that is often presented is that, you see, even if we give this knowledge, the kind of situation, social arrangement, or social situation, people who take up this knowledge, they will not be able to apply it in modern day society. So, what is the answer? If somebody gives this argument, and devotees do, um, that it's better that we learn just ordinary common knowledge. Otherwise we will not be able to fit in modern day society. So what is the answer? The answer is we don't want to fit in modern day society. We don't want to be part of a society that is headless. We don't want to be part of society that is simply fixed or focused on material pursuits. Therefore, we need to create what is meant to be the ideal society, which is explained in the Shastra. And what is that ideal society? Where we are living in association with devotees, where we are understanding what is actually the science of economics, which means cows and land, means Vedic culture, means Vedic village culture, means Vrindavan culture, Vrindavan lifestyle, which was directly uh, demonstrated and lived, by Krishna himself and all the residents of Vrindavan as being what is meant to be the norm in society. Now, to many of our devotees, this uh, is not so easy to accept. They're not so easy accepting this because the whole modern situation is so far removed, and in so many ways we could say discouraging this type of development. Uh, and those who are meant to actually do that mostly are householders. And most householders find it very difficult to conceive or accept that this is even possible. So the question comes, who do we accept as authority? The uh, modern day authorities who are developing and promoting the modern way of living, or do we accept what is given to us in Shastra by great authorities such as Grandfather Bhishmadev? In many ways, in many ways, we should understand this as uh, where do we put our faith? Where do we put our trust? You know, do we put our faith and our trust in what others say, or do we put our trust and our faith in what our founder Acharya is telling us, what Shastra is telling us, in terms of simplifying our living, in terms of being connected with uh, the, the basics which make up actually Vedic culture. So even though we are extremely, very, very uh, far away from what is meant to be the ideal, which is, again, being connected with cows, with land, growing our own food, etc., uh, we should know that this is the unchanging system, which is more easily, we were reading this a few days ago in the purport where Srila Prabhupada in the very first line is using that word. What is that word? To accelerate.
Accelerate, yeah.
In other words, Krishna's material system of is meant to accelerate. What does it mean to accelerate? Like if you're driving, you put your foot on the pedal to accelerate, to go faster. So this social system, this scientific social system given by Krishna is meant to accelerate, to help us more quickly advance in spiritual life. Very important point that Prabhupada makes. A very important point for us as devotees to understand. Otherwise, we're going to be slow, in slow motion, going back to Godhead in slow motion, which means that it may take many, many lifetimes. So, of course, this is meant to be combined, and the whole thing meant to be understood also with what is recommended in the stage of Kali, which is to take shelter of the holy name. So when we promote Varnashrama, it's not in any way minimizing or rejecting what is meant to be what we call the Yuga Dharma. The Yuga Dharma remains the chanting of the holy name. That is, so many references are there, and that is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emphasized. At the same time, we need to understand this in the proper manner through the explanations of our Vaishnava Acharyas, isn't it? And our foremost Vaishnava Acharya, most important for us because every day we are hearing from him through his books, we're hearing his lectures, is our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. So therefore, we cannot minimize or neglect what Srila Prabhupada has presented in that respect. So we need to marry or to balance these two aspects of, yes, the Yuga Dharma is the chanting of the holy name. At the same time, Varnashrama Dharma, we could say, is very much part of that, and that requires a little bit of time. Number one, that requires a little bit of purification as well, and it requires that we have a strong desire to really understand what Srila Prabhupada was trying to convey to us. So this is the text that we were reading for those who happened to come after we read the text. Then he described, Grandfather Bhishmadev, the occupational duties of different orders and statuses of life, citing instances from history, for he was himself well acquainted with the truth, tattvavit. So, in other words, we have to become tattvavit. We have to become knowledgeable of tattva. Yeah, yeah. Tattvadarshan, tattvadarshi. Uh, we were quoting that verse. Vedanti tat, no, what is it? Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarsinaha. Yes. So, any quick comment or question? Varnashram Resource Center. Let us try to understand what that means. Yes.
Maharajji, actually,
Sorry.
in Viji,
In?
chapter, Bhagavad Gita, chapter
Bhagavad Gita.
18,
Yes.
verse text 66, they mention Sarva Dharma Paritejya.
Yes.
So,
So,
Varnashram is also Dharma. So, how can we relate this?
yes. So the question is in the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, Krishna mentions by the end of the chapter, Sarva, that verse, well known verse, Sarvaja Mamekam Saranam Praja. To reject, we need to understand this properly. To reject any type of activity, even in the name of dharma, that is materially motivated, which is also in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam. Also, the same message is being conveyed rather. Dharma projito kaitabata parama nirmatsaranam satam. Dharma projito kaitava. We should, Bhagavatam especially, is rejecting anything which is having some kind of material goal or purpose. So we also reject varnashram if it is understood in that material way. And that type of varnashram is described by acharyas as asurik varnashram. So there's two types of varnashram. There's asurik varnashram and there is daiva varnashram. So we need to understand that what is meant to be rejected is that asurik varnashram, not to reject the daiva varnashram. Yeah, isn't it? So that needs to be understood. We are in no way, the idea being that we cannot avoid, actually we cannot avoid varnashram. Why? Because actually varnashram is connected with the modes of material nature, isn't it?
Yes.
Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, one takes up such a position because of our still having some connection with the modes of material nature. And therefore, this very important statement, very important statement made by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which I've mentioned a few times, that varnasrama, and he means daiva varnasrama. Daiva varnasrama is that system, is that social system that is taken up, that is meant to be taken up by Vaishnavas in their conditioned state. Very important. So, those who are still, in some way or other, still connected with any of the modes of material nature, including the mode of goodness, they are meant to take up, to work, to serve, to live within the system of varnasrama, so that more easily they will be disconnected with these modes of material nature. Isn't it? So therefore, there are many important statements that are being made, that are made actually by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, whereby he says that one's life will be much easier if one adopts that system that has been given by Krishna in terms of varnashrama. He also mentions that all activities within Daiva varnashrama, when performed in that consciousness, with that understanding that I perform my activities for Krishna in devotional service, those activities don't incur karmic reaction. Because naturally devotees know, hey, I don't want, I want to put a stop to karmic reaction. So if one falsely thinks, or if one falsely understands that by performing or taking up the process of varnashrama dharma, that I am creating karmic reaction, which is a wrong understanding, then naturally one will not be inclined to take up varnashrama dharma. But when we understand, as explained by our acharyas, as explained in the Shastra, when we perform Daiva Varnashrama activities, that is the attraction or attractive feature of Varnashrama, is that it recognizes our material condition and situation here in the material world. And this is a whole subject matter, of course. One of the unique features of what we are presenting, which has been explained by Srila Prabhupada and other acharyas also, when we adopt this Vedic system of education, when we are agreeable to adopt this Vedic lifestyle, so what happens is that when a young boy is growing up, by a certain age, within the age of 15, those who are local authorities, those who are the brahmanas, senior brahmanas, and the leader in the village, the senior citizens, they are meant to actually identify the varna of that young boy. Because varna, Prabhupada would always say, first is varna, then is ashram. Varna determines our ashram. Varna also determines what kind of education we will be getting. It's all very, very logical. It's all very, very scientific. Unfortunately, in modern day society, we don't like to always be logical, and we're not also. And therefore, when that happens on a large scale, everything becomes very difficult. Yeah, we have to follow science. We have to follow logic. We have to follow what is given by great personalities like Grandfather Bhishmadev and those who are representing him, our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. And it is time actually to put an end to our discussion for now. We can possibly continue tomorrow in the next few days. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki,
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada ki,
Yeah.
Gaura Pimanandi.